Our next major topic is the reactions of alkenes. In this video, we'll be starting with the general reactivity of alkenes, and then in later videos, we're going to break it down in terms of mechanisms. So we have a few examples of alkene reactions that occur through a carbocation, some that occur with anti-addition, and some that occur with syn addition. As we think about the general reactivity of alkenes, let's think about the details of the bonding. If we have an alkane, each of these carbons is sp3 hybridized, and so we have an sp3 orbital overlapped with an sp3 orbital, and then we have a pair of electrons here, and this is our sigma bond. If we have an alkene, we have a sigma bond that will look very similar, except that it's an sp2 hybridized orbital overlapped with another carbon sp2 hybridized orbital. But in addition, we have the pi bond created by overlap of the p orbital of one alkene carbon with the p orbital of the second alkene carbon. In the case of a carbon-carbon pi bond, the electron density is above and below the axis that joins the two atoms together, which makes these electrons more exposed, more accessible, and they're ready to react. If we look at the electrostatic potential maps of our alkane and our alkene, green means it's pretty much neutral. Blue is positive, red is negative. Notice on the top, and then you would have it also on the bottom here, we have negative character. This is kind of red, it's a negative character because there's a lot of electron density above and below the plane. This high electron density above and below the plane, so really exposed, this means that an alkene can share its electrons. So a species that can share electrons or can donate electrons would be a nucleophile. So many of the reactions that we'll be looking at, an alkene will act as the nucleophile. In particular, it's the pi electrons of the alkene that can act as a nucleophile. And so alkenes will react with an electrophile. Alkenes have a very central role in terms of synthesis. Alkenes can be converted to alkanes, so we're adding H2. Alkenes can be converted to alcohols, so we're adding H and OH across the double bond. Alkenes can be converted to diols, so we're adding OH to each of the alkene carbons. Alkenes can be converted to alkyl halides, where we add HX across the double bond. Alkenes can be converted to a dihalide, where a halogen is added to each of the alkene carbons. An alkene can be converted to what's called a halohydrin, where we have an X and OH are added to the adjacent carbons. Alkenes can be converted to epoxides, and alkenes can be cleaved right along the alkene bond, and it can result in the formation of ketones or aldehydes, depending on what this structure is. So these are some of the transformations that alkenes can undergo. Some of these we're going to talk about in this chapter. Some are going to wait until next semester. I want you to appreciate the flexibility that we have with alkenes and try not to get too overwhelmed by how many different things can be done. Try to look at that as a positive thing.